The envelope arrived on a Tuesday morning, innocent white paper that would change everything. Zara was filming a Real Soul Living segment about making Nigerian breakfast in a Korean kitchen when Minjun walked in holding the letter, his expression unreadable. "Babe, you're in my shot," Zara said, laughing as she positioned her phone to capture the akra frying in oil. "My subscribers don't want to see your face, they want to see." She stopped when she saw his expression. "What's wrong?" Minjun held up the envelope. "My uncle is coming to Seoul. He wants to meet you." Zara turned off the stove. In 6 months of dating and 3 months of serious commitment, Minjun had barely mentioned family. She knew his parents died when he was young, knew he'd been raised by distant relatives who'd stolen his inheritance, knew he'd built his empire alone. But an uncle actually reaching out? That was new. And from the look on Minjun's face, not good new. "Okay," Zara said carefully. "Why do you look like someone died?" "Because my uncle, Kang Dae-young, is the reason I spent my teenage years fighting for scraps. He took everything my parents left me, claimed I was too young to manage it, and by the time I was old enough to fight back legally, the money was gone. He said it was spent on my care." Minjun's jaw was tight. "I haven't spoken to him in 15 years. And now he wants to meet my girlfriend because apparently word has gotten around that I'm dating a foreign content creator and going legitimate. So this is an inspection," Zara said flatly. "He wants to make sure I'm not after your money like he was. Or he wants something. With Dae-young, there's always an angle." Minjun crumpled the letter. "We don't have to meet him. I can tell him to go to hell like I did 15 years ago." But Zara was already thinking. 6 months ago, she would have hidden from this kind of confrontation, worried about making things worse. Now? Now she understood that real relationships meant facing uncomfortable things together. "No. We meet him. Because if we're serious about this, about us, then we don't get to hide from family, even toxic family. We face it together." "When did you get so brave?" "When I married a man who used to throw coffee at people and now cooks me breakfast on Sundays." She kissed his cheek. "We've got this." If you're already hooked and ready to see how Zara handles meeting Minjun's nightmare uncle, hit that subscribe button right now because this family drama is about to get intense. Drop a comment telling me if you think she should be nice or go full Lagos on him, and smash that like button if you believe love means facing the hard stuff together. Now let's see what happens when family crashes the party. The restaurant Dae-young chose was expensive and traditional, the kind of place where everyone spoke in hushed Korean and judged you for how you held your chopsticks. Zara had dressed carefully, a fusion outfit that honored both her Nigerian roots and Korean context, her natural hair styled in elegant twists, minimal jewelry except for the bracelet Minjun had given her. She looked confident. She felt terrified. Kang Dae-young was 60-something with silver hair and the kind of face that probably looked kind until you noticed his eyes. Those eyes were calculating, assessing Zara like she was a business proposition to be evaluated. He stood when they arrived, bowing formally to Minjun before turning to Zara. "So this is the famous Zara Okafor," he said in perfect English. "I've seen your videos. Very entertaining. My wife enjoys watching foreigners try to navigate Korean culture." The condescension was wrapped in politeness, but Zara heard it clearly. Minjun tensed beside her, but she squeezed his hand once, a silent "I've got this," before smiling at Dae-young. "Then I hope I've been educational," Zara replied smoothly, switching to Korean. "Though I find that learning culture is less about entertainment and more about respect. Something I'm still working on, but I think I'm getting better. Don't you think, Minjun?" She used the intimate form deliberately, establishing their relationship's seriousness. Dae-young's eyebrow twitched, surprise at her Korean, annoyance at her confidence, calculation about how to respond. They all sat. The server brought tea. Dae-young sipped his slowly before speaking. "Minjun, I'll be direct. I'm concerned about your recent business direction. Going legitimate is admirable, but you're making decisions that affect family reputation. Dating is one thing. But I hear you're considering marriage? Where you hear things isn't my concern, Minjun said coldly. What I do with my life stopped being your business when you stole my inheritance. I invested that money in your future. You bought a house in Jeju and sent your own children to international school while I lived in a basement and built my company from nothing. The tension was thick enough to cut. Zara decided to interrupt before they started throwing dishes. Mr. Kong, can I ask you something? Why did you really want to meet me? Daeyoung turned to her, reassessing. Because Minjun was supposed to marry well. Someone from a good family who could elevate his position. Instead, he's dating a foreign influencer with no connections, no wealth, no status. You understand why that's concerning for someone who cares about his future. You mean someone who wants access to his money, Zara said bluntly. Let me save us all time. I know you're not here out of love. You're here because Minjun is successful now and you want back in. You're using me as an excuse to reconnect. So let me make something very clear, I don't want your approval because I don't need it. Neither does Minjun. We're building something real, and whether you accept it or criticize it literally doesn't matter to us. Minjun was staring at her with something like awe. Daeyoung's expression darkened. You're very bold for someone whose visa situation is precarious. And there it was. The threat. Zara felt ice in her veins but kept her voice steady. Is that a threat, Mr. Kong? Because if you're thinking about causing immigration problems for me, you should know that I have a legitimate work visa, strong community support, and a very protective boyfriend who's learned that family isn't about blood, it's about who shows up when things are hard. You haven't shown up for Minjun in 15 years. So forgive me if I don't take your concerns seriously. She stood. This was enlightening, but we have somewhere to be. Enjoy your meal. Minjun stood too, leaving money on the table for their untouched tea, and they walked out together. Once outside, Zara started shaking. Minjun pulled her into his arms right there on the Gangnam sidewalk. You were incredible, he said into her hair. I was ready to throw my tea at him, but you? You destroyed him with politeness. I learned from watching you handle board meetings. Kill them with competence. Zara pulled back. But Minjun, he wasn't bluffing about the visa thing. My renewal is coming up in 3 months. What if he actually tries something? Then we deal with it. Together. Like we deal with everything. He kissed her forehead. But maybe we should start looking at long-term solutions. Because Zara, I'm not letting anyone force you out of my life. Not my uncle, not anyone. They walked hand in hand toward the subway, neither of them noticing the woman photographing them from across the street. Not Sujin, she'd retreated as promised, nursing her wounds privately. This was someone new, hired by Daeyoung, collecting information for leverage. The visa renewal paperwork arrived 2 weeks later, and it was thick. Much thicker than Zara's previous renewals. New requirements, additional documentation, proof of stable income for the past year, proof of long-term employment contracts. Her content company was willing to sponsor her again, but they were small, and immigration was suddenly asking for financial guarantees they couldn't provide. This is harassment, Minjun said, reading through the requirements. They're making it impossible to comply. Or my visa category is just more scrutinized now. Zara was trying to stay calm, but panic was creeping in. I'm not the first foreigner who's had trouble with renewals. Maybe Daeyoung has nothing to do with it. But the timing was suspicious. And when Zara's immigration lawyer reviewed the case, her expression was grim. Someone flagged your file. There's a note here about concerns regarding employment stability and long-term residency intentions. That's code 4, we think you're trying to stay permanently through marriage. But I'm not even engaged. You're dating a wealthy Korean man. That's enough to make them cautious. The lawyer tapped her pen against the desk. The good news is your case isn't closed. The bad news is you need substantial proof that you have legitimate reasons to stay beyond the relationship. Do you have any major projects coming up? Contracts? Something that shows you're building a career here independent of Minjun? Zara thought about her YouTube channel, her 500,000 followers, her RealSeoulLiving brand. It was growing, but was it enough? I'm working on a collaboration with a Korean cultural exchange nonprofit. We're developing content that helps foreigners integrate better. But it's not finalized yet. Finalize it. Fast. And get it in writing. You need to show immigration that you're contributing to Korean society, not just existing in it. The lawyer closed the file. You have 2 months to build the strongest case possible. Use them wisely. That night, Zara worked until 3 a.m., reaching out to every contact she'd made in Seoul. The cultural exchange nonprofit loved her proposal, a video series showing real integration challenges and solutions, breaking down the fake Instagram perfect life to show honest struggles and growth. A Korean cosmetics brand wanted to partner with her for an Africa-Korea beauty fusion line. A university asked if she'd be interested in guest lecturing about cross-cultural content creation. Minjun found her asleep at her laptop, still wearing her glasses, notes scattered everywhere. He carefully lifted her and carried her to bed, staying up himself to review her proposals. When Zara woke up, he had coffee waiting and a serious expression. I have an idea, but you might hate it. Oh no. That's never a good opening. My company could sponsor your visa officially. Not through your content work, directly. We're expanding the cultural exchange division, and we need someone to head it. It would be a real position with a real salary, not just a favor. You'd be qualified, and immigration would have to accept it because the position requires your specific background. Zara sat up slowly. Minjun, people are already suspicious about our relationship. If you hire me, if I'm on your company payroll, it looks exactly like what your uncle and everyone else is saying, that I'm using you. Who cares what it looks like? It's legitimate. You're qualified. The position is real. And it solves the visa problem. It also puts me in your debt professionally. What if we fight? What if we break up? Then I'm working for my ex-boyfriend, dependent on him for my visa. That's a power imbalance I can't accept. They argued for 2 hours. Minjun insisting he was offering a legitimate opportunity, Zara insisting she needed to build her own path. Finally, exhausted and frustrated, they sat in angry silence until Zara spoke quietly. I appreciate what you're trying to do. I love that you want to protect me. But protecting me by making me dependent on you isn't protection, it's a cage. Even a gold cage is still a cage. I need to solve this myself, prove I can stand on my own, or I'll never really believe I deserve to be here. Minjun was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded slowly. You're right. I'm sorry. I keep trying to fix things when what you need is support, not solutions. Tell me how I can help without taking over. Just be here. Believe in me when I'm scared. Remind me why I'm fighting. Zara took his hand. And maybe help me practice my Korean for these interviews, because if I'm going to convince immigration I belong here, my language skills need to be better than, can I have kimchi please? They spent the next month in controlled chaos. Zara worked her content company job during the day, filmed videos at night, took every meeting she could get, and practiced Korean with Minjun until she could hold complex conversations about cultural integration and business development. She was exhausted, stressed, and more determined than she'd ever been. The cultural exchange nonprofit made her an offer, Director of Digital Integration, creating content and programs for foreigners living in Korea. The salary was modest but real. The position was legitimate and aligned perfectly with her background. When Zara submitted the updated visa application with the new employment contract, she felt hope for the first time in weeks. That hope lasted 3 days, until her lawyer called with news. Immigration denied the application. They're saying the position seems created specifically for you, that it raises questions about the authenticity of the employment. Zara sat down hard. But it's a real position. The nonprofit has funding, a business plan, everything. I know. But immigration is being unusually difficult. Zara, I have to ask, is there any possibility someone with influence is pressuring them to deny your case? Daeyoung. It had to be. Minjun made calls, trying to find out who was blocking Zara's visa, but his uncle was smart enough not to leave obvious fingerprints. They were stuck. Zara had 30 days left on her current visa. 1 month to figure out a solution or she'd have to leave Korea. The pressure fractured something between them. Not their love, that was solid, but their ability to handle stress together. Minjun became obsessive, working his connections frantically, getting more controlling as his solutions failed. Zara withdrew, too proud to show how terrified she was, pushing Minjun away when he tried to help. They fought over small things because the big thing, her possible deportation, was too scary to address directly. He criticized her for working too much. She criticized him for trying to manage her life. They said things they didn't mean, apologized, said them again. The tension built until one night it exploded. Why won't you just let me help you? Minjun demanded after Zara refused his offer to hire a more expensive lawyer. Because I don't need you to save me. I need you to trust that I can save myself. I do trust you. But there's no time. You have 3 weeks left, Zara. 3 weeks. And you're still trying to do everything alone, like accepting help makes you weak. And you're still trying to control everything, like the only way to love someone is to fix their problems for them. Zara's voice cracked. I know you're scared. I'm scared too. But I can't be with someone who sees me as a project to manage instead of a partner to support. Minjun stepped back like she'd slapped him. Is that really what you think? That you're a project to me? Sometimes, yes. Because you keep trying to solve me instead of just being with me in the mess. They stood on opposite sides of the apartment, the physical distance reflecting the emotional gap that was growing. Minjun spoke first, his voice rough. When I was 15 and alone, nobody helped me. I built everything myself because I had to. Now I have resources and power, and I can't use them to help the person I love most because she's too stubborn to accept help. Do you know how frustrating that is? Do you know how frustrating it is to be constantly reminded that you have resources and power and I don't? Zara shot back. That my whole life here depends on paperwork and permission while yours is secure? I'm not trying to be stubborn. I'm trying to survive with some dignity intact. Then maybe we need space. Maybe I'm making this harder for you. Don't. Zara's voice broke. Don't use space as an excuse to give up when things get hard. We promised each other real. This is real, the ugly, scary, frustrating parts. We don't run from this. I'm not running. I'm trying to give you what you keep saying you need, room to solve this yourself. I need room to solve it, but I also need to know you're not going anywhere. Those aren't contradictory things, Minjun. I need space and support. Independence and partnership. Can you understand that? He was quiet for a long time. Then he crossed the room and pulled her close. I'm learning. I grew up thinking love meant control because control meant safety. You're teaching me it means trust instead. But I'm scared, Zara. I'm so scared of losing you. I'm scared too. But we don't make good decisions when we're scared. We make desperate ones. Zara pulled back to look at him. So let's make a deal. For the next 2 weeks, I focus on finding a solution my way. You support me but don't try to fix it. And if I can't solve it by then, we brainstorm together. Equal partners. Deal? Deal. They sealed it with a kiss that tasted like tears and determination. Then Zara went back to work, and Minjun forced himself to step back and trust her. The solution came from an unexpected place. Mama Adiz, who owned the Nigerian restaurant where Zara and Minjun had their first real date, called with a proposition. My daughter is starting a business importing African products, textiles, food, beauty supplies. She needs a cultural consultant and content creator to build the Korean market. You interested? The business was legitimate, the position was perfect, and immigration couldn't claim it was created just for Zara since Mama Adi's daughter had been planning it for months. Zara would have real work, real income independent of Min Jun, and proof that she was contributing to Korea's growing multicultural economy. She submitted the new application with 1 week left on her visa. The wait was agony. Min Jun held her hand through it but didn't try to use his connections to push the application through. They'd agreed, this had to happen legitimately or not at all. The approval came 3 days before her visa expired. Relief hit Zara so hard she actually cried, something she rarely did. Min Jun held her while she sobbed out months of accumulated stress. When she finally calmed down, he cupped her face gently. "You did it. You solved it yourself. I solved it with help from community, which is different from solving it alone. I'm learning that too." Zara wiped her eyes. "Thank you for trusting me. For not swooping in to fix everything even when you wanted to. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Watching you struggle and not being able to help. Torture. But you did help. Just by being here. By believing I could do it." She kissed him softly. "We're getting better at this partnership thing." They celebrated with cheap soju and expensive relief, laughing about how close they'd come to disaster, how much they'd learned about trusting each other through crisis. It should have been the end of their problems. But late that night, Zara's phone rang. Her mother, calling from Lagos at an hour that meant emergency. "Zara, your brother is in trouble. He owes people money. Bad people. They came to the house." Her mother's voice was shaking. "We need help. We need it now." The amount her mother named made Zara's stomach drop. It was more than she'd make in 6 months at her new job. Money she didn't have. Money Min Jun could provide easily, but asking him after she'd just fought so hard for independence felt like swallowing glass. "I'll figure something out, Mama. I promise." After hanging up, Zara sat in the darkness trying to decide what kind of person she wanted to be. Independent enough to let her brother suffer? Proud enough to watch her family fall apart? Or brave enough to ask for help when she really needed it? Min Jun found her at dawn, still sitting in the same spot. She told him everything. He listened without interrupting, and when she finished, he asked one simple question: "What do you need?" "I need to help my family. I need to borrow money I can't pay back for years. I need to ask you for something enormous right after telling you I needed to be independent. I need to be a hypocrite because family matters more than pride. That's not hypocrisy. That's growth. Understanding when to stand alone and when to lean on your partner." Min Jun pulled out his phone. "How much and where do I send it?" "Min Jun, I can't just." "You're not just anything. You're asking your partner for help with a family emergency. That's what partners do. I help you. You help me. Sometimes it's balanced. Sometimes it's not. That's not keeping score. That's love." Zara felt something unlock in her chest. All those months of trying to prove she didn't need him, and here was the truth, she did need him. Not for her visa or her career, but for this, for having someone to turn to when life got bigger than she could handle alone. That wasn't weakness. That was partnership. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'll pay you back." "I don't want you to. This isn't a loan. It's family helping family. Your brother is your family, which makes him mine now too." The money transferred within hours. Zara's mother called back crying with relief. Crisis averted. But Zara couldn't shake the feeling that accepting Min Jun's help had changed something fundamental between them. They were past the stage of trying to prove themselves to each other. They were in the stage of actually being a team. That weekend, they went to Gwangjang Market like they did most weekends now, eating bindiotik and watching Seoul move around them. Zara's phone buzzed with a message from Dae-young. "I heard about your visa approval. Congratulations. Perhaps I misjudged you." "He's trying to get back in," Min Jun said, reading over her shoulder. Let him try. We don't need his approval. Zara deleted the message. We've got something better. We've got us. And it was true. They'd survived family pressure, visa drama, their own worst controlling and independent impulses. They'd learned to fight without breaking, to help without smothering, to need each other without losing themselves. It wasn't the perfect Instagram relationship Zara used to perform. It was messy and complicated and real. 2 months later, Zara's new job was thriving, her YouTube channel had hit 750,000 subscribers, and she was actually making decent money for the first time since moving to Seoul. Minjun's legitimate business pivot was successful enough that his board stopped questioning his judgment. They'd moved past survival mode into actually building something sustainable. One evening, they were cooking together in the apartment, Zara teaching Minjun how to make jollof rice properly while he corrected her kimchi technique, when he suddenly got serious. I have something to tell you, and I don't want you to freak out. Zara's hand stilled on the rice paddle. That's literally the worst way to start a sentence. My company is opening an office in Lagos. What? We're expanding into West African markets. Cultural exchange, tech partnerships, educational programs. It makes business sense, but also. He turned to face her fully. I want to know where you come from. Meet your family properly. Understand the other half of you. And maybe spend a few months a year there, if you want. Build something that's truly ours, not just Korean or Nigerian but both. Zara felt tears burning her eyes. You're serious? You want to split time between Seoul and Lagos? I want to build a life where you never have to choose between your worlds. Where we create space for both. He wiped a tear from her cheek. Is that okay? Okay? Minjun, that's. She couldn't find words, so she just pulled him close and held on. After all the fighting to stay in Korea, to prove she belonged here, he was offering her something she hadn't dared to hope for, the chance to belong in both places. They finished cooking dinner together, the kitchen filled with the smell of jollof rice and kimchi jjigae, an impossible combination that somehow worked perfectly. Like them. Like everything they'd built by refusing to fit into neat categories and instead creating something entirely new. Later that night, Zara posted a video. Real talk, year 1 in Seoul. She talked about visa struggles and family pressure and cultural confusion and falling in love with someone who challenged every assumption she had about relationships. The comments flooded in, other foreigners sharing their stories, Koreans talking about dating across cultures, people from everywhere saying they felt seen. Minjun appeared in the frame, comfortable now with being part of her content. Ready? He asked in Korean. Always, Zara replied in Pidgin, then laughed. We're never going to speak the same language, are we? We speak the language that matters. Ubuntu. I am because we are. 6 months ago, Zara had used Minjun's car as an Instagram prop and accidentally crashed into a life she never could have planned. She'd performed perfection until she learned that real was more powerful. She'd fought for independence until she learned that partnership meant knowing when to stand alone and when to lean on someone else. She'd tried to prove she belonged in Seoul until she realized belonging wasn't about location, it was about finding people who chose you as intentionally as you chose them. Seoul was still hard. Money was still tight. Cultural misunderstandings still happened. Daeyoung still sent occasional messages trying to worm back into Minjun's life. Soojin still existed somewhere in Gangnam, probably bitter but no longer relevant to their story. Life was still messy and complicated and imperfect. But they'd learned that love wasn't about making life easy. It was about making life worth the difficulty. And looking at Minjun across their kitchen table, eating jollof rice with chopsticks because he was stubborn and she thought it was hilarious, Zara knew she'd found something real enough to build on. If you made it all the way to the end of this chapter, you absolute legend, drop a comment below telling me if you want part 3, the Lagos adventure. What happens when Minjun meets Zara's family in Nigeria? When Seoul Boy meets Lagos chaos? When they have to prove their love works on her home turf? Hit that like button if you believe love that bends across continents is worth celebrating, and smash that subscribe button because Zara and Minjun's story is far from over. They taught us that real love means facing hard things together, that partnership isn't about perfection but about showing up even when it's messy, and that sometimes the best things in life require fighting for what you believe in while staying open to help when you need it. Part 3 is coming, and it's going to show you what happens when Seoul meets Lagos. Comment below with what you want to see happen next. Ubuntu, fam. I am because we are. And this story? It's just getting started.